Welcome to the good ride, because when you can't try before you buy, you got this guy. I'm James Beastie, this guy. Next to me is the Nitro Quiver Slash, the Quiver Dinghy, and the Quiver Pow. I'm gonna be talking primarily about the Slash, and I might occasionally reference these two, but by the quiver in each name, they're all very unique, very different boards. So that's why they're made to be in a quiver. I rode this with Union Atlas and the Nitro Team Pro, a binding I really enjoyed. And then I rode it with a Ride Torrent and also the Burton Tourist. I got this very late in the season. I thought I wasn't gonna be able to do a review, but I lucked into a decent amount of powder to get a taste for what all these boards are like. And as you know, we put out honest, objective, unbiased reviews without any brand oversight. And we can do that thanks to the support of shops like Blower Board Shop out of Big Bear. They have a strong presence online. So if you want to support the good ride and keep objective reviews flowing, check out Blower Board Shop, click through our links and see if something works for you there. To give you a short summary, it's one of the first boards in their line with a 3D spoon nose going into camber with a convex tail, so it really has a lot of bite in the back part of the tail, and it has a very smooth, flowy, easy, almost washy feel on groomers, but great in powder nose. So if you like a more back foot weighted carve on groomers and you want something to still be very competent in powder, this could work for you. So when it comes to sizing, this 156 felt very good for my size 9 boots, 185 pounds, and my 5'10" frame. This was great as an all-around ride. I've ridden the 162 in the past when it was full camber, and that was fine for me. And I think if I was gonna ride a lot of powder, I'd go 162. It would be a little hard to control and handle in uneven terrain, but when it's deep and you want that extra float, it would do a lot better than this 56, which felt a touch on the small side in powder, but on groomers it felt just right, especially when I got into uneven, messy snow or when I was in the snake. This is more the right size. Now, when it comes to shape, this is very tapered, very directional, not as much as the Quiver Pow that you can see there. This looks like it has a leg day or two in the gym, where this looks like it skips leg day every day. The Nitro Quiver Dinghy, very balanced, very CrossFit type of board here. Not a lot of taper. So this sits in between the dinghy and the pow. But then you factor in the spoon nose and that convex tail along with full camber from tip to tail. It really has a semi-technical feel to it. A little more forgiving in the nose, a little more catchy in the tail. It has a very back foot weighted turn to it. But this 3D camber tech tracked pretty well. Not as good as the dinghy, almost the same as the pow, but it's more like camber than any of the other hybrid shapes. So 1 footing going down a long flat cat track was good enough. Just lean back a touch and you're good. Let's talk flex here. You got a pretty medium flex. I feel a lot of give in the nose. If I try to flex right here, it's medium stiff bordering on stiff. Then you have a medium stiff tail, and it's got a nice pop to it like all the Nitro boards do. So when buttering the nose, that 3D spoon tech makes the nose want to wash out a little bit. It's not terrible, but it definitely takes some getting used to. Then off the tail, it's doable. Then when it comes to the pop, Nitro has a little bit of that rubbery feel to it, but it also has a lot of dynamic energy. So you go to ollie, there's a lot of pop back. Then you take that semi-rubbery, pretty poppy flex and test it in all conditions. It did a pretty good job. It was a little bucky and bouncy in some softer, uneven snow, but it handled hard, micro bumpy snow pretty well. And it's not the best in either extreme, but you can ride this all day and it's not gonna be too taxing. The only time I felt like it was a little taxing was when the snow was really uneven and it was really hard to turn. I felt the width over the front foot a little bit more than I'd like. and it felt harder to turn, but I was in some pretty wet, sticky, tough snow to ride in anyways. When you get into turning through bumps and merging moguls, that kind of stuff towards the end of the day, it's gonna feel a little bit more work than some boards, especially at my boot size, but overall, very good. And when it comes to base glide, I thought the base glide was pretty good. Nothing amazing, but definitely like middle upper tier. Kept its speed well enough. When you want to point it, yeah, I felt this softer nose definitely had just a touch of clown shoe, but not that much. It has a nice entry point that allows you to straight line without feeling hooky. There's more side cut near the tail, so this can straight line pretty well, especially when you just center your weight and point it. Edge hold's pretty good, nothing amazing, but handled some hard patches here and there pretty well. This initiated a turn really quick for my specs, quicker than I thought in most situations, except for really messy, uneven stuff. Once you got it over on edge, the entry point is pretty mellow and pretty balanced, but once you start weighting towards that back foot, you get that across the groomer to circle carver kind of feel. So I love a back foot weighted carve, but I don't always want it all the time. So the fact that it really only back foot weights a carve can be problematic for some people, including myself, but it really drives and springs out of a turn with all this full camber. Now let's talk powder. This is pretty set back and pretty directional. It's not the most set back, directional, surfy pow ride I've ever tried, but you factor in that 3D nose, a good bit of taper, and that concave tail, those camber points really engaged. It's a very unique ride. You kind of feel like you have fins a little bit like you do with surfboards, but it has more of a centered feel, and if you set it all the way back, you can get 4.75 inches back from center of board at a 22-inch stance width. That means somebody like me with full-size discs that I can slide down a little bit, I can get almost all the way back on the tail with a 21.5-inch stance width. It's not dedicated powboard float. It's in the upper tiers, and I like the way this turned in powder. I like that 3D nose. It just felt so good, and it felt pretty floaty, pretty turny, and pretty slashy. Like I said before, I would love in the deepest of deep to be on the 162 quiver slash, but this 56 was more than competent in the snow I had, and it felt like it could handle a lot more. Overall, I think this is a very fun, very directional, very back foot oriented slashy ride that works just as well on groomers as it does in powder. It's a very unique ride, like all these quiver boards are, but it could work for you if you like that kind of surfy but not super far back on the tail, 3D nose kind of ride.